Today's keeper is keeper 3.5, curve sketching F from F prime. So it's the complete backwards opposite of what you guys did yesterday. This time I'm going to give you guys F prime and you're going to sketch F for me. All right, so let's just jump right into an example. Given F prime, so this graph is a linear graph. It looks like maybe y equals negative x or something like that. So given F prime, I want you guys to sketch for me F and F double prime. So to do that, I'm going to start with the F prime line, just like I did before. And I'm going to say, what's F prime doing? And so when I'm looking at this, I notice that the first piece of this graph, so the left-hand side, this piece of the graph is positive. And so it's positive, then it touches 0, and then it goes negative. So this right-hand side of the graph is negative. Well, what does that tell me about F? Now, looking back at my your keeper, you should see that if F is positive, if F prime is positive, that means F must have been increasing. And if F prime is negative, that means that F must have been decreasing. So again, I'm increasing on the left-hand side of my graph. I am decreasing on the right-hand side of my graph. And anytime I increase the decrease, so I have a function that's like going up, so up like that, and then it stops right here, and then it comes back down like that. That means that I must have a maximum in my graph. Like that point, wherever it changed from increasing to decreasing, that must be a maximum. And I can see that from my arrows because I'm going up and then I'm going down. And so that must be a maximum. And so at that point, at that x equals 0 value, I'm going to go ahead and put a dot somewhere high. And again, this is a sketch, so I don't know exactly where to put it. I don't know how high to put it. I can even go below the x-axis. I just need to understand that when I draw my curve, that has to be a maximum. On the left-hand side of my point, I want to draw a curve that's increasing. And then on the right-hand side of my graph, from that point, I want to draw a curve that's decreasing. This red graph that you see, this quadratic shaped graph, that would have been F, given that F prime was that highlighted yellow linear line. Now, if I wanted to draw F prime from the original, or sorry, F double prime from the original F prime graph, again, I'm going to start with that F prime graph. Go ahead and write in my F prime line, but this time when I do my F prime line, I actually want to look at the slope. So I'm almost doing what we did yesterday. And so this F prime line is decreasing the whole way, but specifically is decreasing at a slope of approximately -1. Well, that tells me that my F double prime line, or my F double prime graph, is decreasing the whole way, and it's just going to be a constant line at -1. So I would draw a horizontal line at y equals -1. In this example, we're going to draw again F given F prime. So once again, I'm giving you the graph of F prime, and I want you to kind of think backwards and draw F. So to start, again, I'm going to start with my F prime line. I'm going to say what's going on with it. Is it positive? Is it negative? So before I do that, I want to see where does this thing cross the x-axis. So it crosses here, here, and here. Those are all zeros of my graph. That's just crossing at those 0 values. And that means to the left of this first 0, I am positive. So over here, I'm positive. So I'm putting plus signs on my line. Then I go negative down here. So I put minus signs on my line. Then I go positive again. So plus signs on my line. And then I go negative. So negative signs on my line. Well, that tells me that my F graph is going back and forth from increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing. So if I draw an F line real quick, I have increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing, which tells me again at these little zeros that I had, since this one was increasing to decreasing, that had to be a maximum. This one was decreasing to increasing, so that had to be a minimum. And then again, increasing to decreasing, that had to be a maximum. So when I go to my graph, I'm going to draw in just some random points, making sure I know that whether they're maximums or minimums. So for this first 0 over here, this 0, I'm just going to draw a point above it so I can have a maximum. Then at x equals 0, I need a minimum, so I'm going to draw a point a little low so I have a minimum there. And then at this last 0 over at the end, so this 0 right here, I need a maximum again, so I'm just going to draw a point kind of high. All right, from there, I want to draw a curve that's increasing, then a curve that's decreasing, then a curve that's increasing, then a curve that's decreasing. So again, starting, I have an increasing curve, then I have a decreasing curve, then I have an increasing curve, then I have a decreasing curve. And that would be the graph of f. Next, we have absolute value looking type graph. And this again is f prime, and we want to know what the original graph of f was. So starting with the f prime line, I'm going to identify my zeros. I have a 0 here, and I have a 0 here, so I'm going to put those little marks on the graph. Then I'm going to look to see whether it's positive or negative. So this first left piece of the graph, this piece down here is negative, so I put negative signs on my graph. Then I'm positive, and then I'm negative again. So it's like negative, and then positive through here, and then negative down here. That tells me that for my F graph, I'm going decreasing, increasing, decreasing. And because I was decreasing and then increasing again, that means that I have a minimum. So decrease, increase means minimum, and then increase, decrease, that is going to be a maximum. So going to my graph, I'm going to put a dot above a dot below my first 0 for the minimum, and a dot above my second 0 for a maximum. And then I'm just going to draw a curve that decreases, then a curve that increases, and then a curve that decreases again. And again, remember these are sketches, so yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. It's just kind of getting an idea of the shape of the actual function. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, the very last example, this time I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to give you guys some characteristics of a function, and I want you to tell me what the graph of f of x will look like. So the first characteristic I'm giving you is that f of x is continuous. That means it has no holes, no jumps, no asymptotes. It's a clean graph. I can draw it without picking up my pencil. The next characteristic I'm saying is, or I'm giving you, is f of 3 equals 2. Well, that's a point. That's simply saying that 3, 2 is a point on the graph. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that out and put 3, 2 on my graph. The next characteristic is that f prime is greater than 0, so f prime is positive, from negative infinity to 0, and then 3 to infinity. So on my f prime line, I'm going to put 0 and 3, and from negative infinity to 0, I'm going to put positive, and then 3 to infinity, I'm going to put positive. Then the next characteristic, part D, says f prime is less than 0, so f prime is negative from 0 to 3. So I put negatives on my graph. Well, what does that tell me about f? That simply tells me that I am increasing, decreasing, increasing. All right. The last thing it tells me, very important, it says that f prime equals 0 at 0 and 3. That means that for sure I don't have any kind of cusp or corner or anything like that, because I'm equaling 0. That means I'm a max or a min at those values. And I can determine specifically which ones I am, because I went from increasing to decreasing, which means I'm a max, and then decreasing to increasing, which means I'm a min. All right, so I'm simply going to, at 0, I need to draw a max somewhere, so I'm going to draw a point kind of high. And then at 3, I already have my point at 2. And so I need a line that's increasing, and then I need a line that is decreasing, and then I need a line that's increasing. And that is a sketch of my graph.